Okay, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. You're very loud. Right, I'm just going to have to mute everybody else. Give me 1 second. Trying to remember how to use this thing. It's been a while. Manage participants. Here we go. Right, if you guys want to chat to me, you can use the chat box, which you'll see on the right-hand side. Popped up before talking. There, there's a chat box. Yo, what up, Michael? All right, so that should pop up when we get going again. So yeah, feel free to ask questions at the end. I'm just going to run through a few things first, and then we can get to that. All right, so we'll get started now. This guy down here. All right, guys, welcome to Altcoin Mastery. Hope you can all hear me loud and clear. Put this webinar together because a lot of people are asking about how to short the market, how to trade on BitMEX, and basically learn how to trade using leverage, trading Bitcoin. These trading principles can be used to trade basically anything on margin and on leverage, from bonds, stocks, commodities, things like gold, silver. But obviously, we're focusing here now today on cryptocurrency, and it's going to be mainly based around technical analysis and based around cryptocurrency and margin trading on the BitMEX platform as the main platform that most people are using at the moment, because as we saw yesterday, there's some massive insecurities going on at the moment with Tether. So most people are avoiding Bitfinex, but the same strategies work on Bitfinex. It's just a little bit of a different platform. You can't use as high leverage to short the market as you can on BitMEX, but it doesn't really matter that much. We'll go further into that further down in the course. It doesn't really matter to start off with. What we're going to do today in the next hour is going to cover off, a whole heap of basics. I'm going to give you guys as much possible value and cover off as many of the key topics as possible to go forward, in this BitMEX masterclass. So let's get started. This masterclass is all about teaching you guys how to use leverage to your advantage to long or short the market using perpetual swaps, futures, and how to hedge effectively. Basically, the purpose of this masterclass is help you guys to navigate margin trading platforms to find low risk, high profit opportunities that can consistently make you a ton of profit by day trading these markets day to day, whether it be swing trading or whether it be short, more scalp style trading, trading a range or trading small breakouts, trend lines, resistance lines, breaks, and things like that. So quick introduction on myself. I am your altcoin mastery head trainer, Kyle Stagall. Basically, I have a bachelor's degree in finance and economics at the University of Swinburne Technology. Completed that about 10 years ago. I've been trading on and off ever since, and I also am a strategic advisor at Elysium Capital Partners. I started implementing the same trading principles I was using emotional market psychology and market cycles that I learnt back at university. And started using those in the cryptocurrency markets, and I found it much more profitable than things like foreign exchange. And then I have found a lot of people that were regularly asking me for advice on how to understand and read charts and candlesticks. And so I basically put together the Altcoin Mastery course, which was a hit. Toured all around Australia, teaching people in Sydney, in Perth, in Melbourne, and we had a really strong online course that's done really, really well and been quite successful. And a lot of people have now been asking me how to use margin trading websites and margin trading exchanges like Bitfinex and BitMEX to, so they can become more of a profitable trader when the market isn't moving as much, which we're seeing right now. We're not getting these big altcoin market cycle swings. We're getting these shorter movements, and how we can still make profit trading day to day off, these lower swings in the market. So basically what I decided to do is put together this course, which is the BitMEX Masterclass Margin Trading course. I have to say before we move on, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. It is purely for your education, so you guys can make the same decisions and read the same material that I'm reading in the market, and then make your own decisions based on that, rather than you rely on somebody else to make the calls for you. All right, so first off, in margin trading, why do people fail? Because they don't follow a system is the number one reason people fail at margin trading. You know, they just look at the market and they listen to a whole heap of things that other people are saying, and they get excited and they just, you know, make a trade. And they go, I'm going to long 10x, and that gets them into a lot of trouble when the market goes in the other direction. For whatever reason, you know, they might be longing just under a resistance point, and then, you know, they start to freak out. They get caught in a trade, and then before they know it, you know, they're selling out just as the coin starts to bounce and go back up in the other direction, right? Number two, they trade based off how they feel rather than based off price action. You know, they get excited, they see the market moving, but there might be a really heavy resistance line coming up that's pretty close. So they might buy in on a FOMO pump, then it starts running. Maybe they get maybe a couple of % in profit, then it hits a resistance level and then starts to break back down, right? They overcomplicate it by looking at too many indicators. They get too excited by too many things, and they're reading all this analysis that's contradicting itself, and they're not looking at a simple system that gives clear calls based on, you know, based on true indicators that just give you a factual yes or no instead of giving you, you know, a possible answer. So we want to be looking at things like that to give you direct answers in indicators, and not be basing off things that, you know, could be a yes or no, right? So we want firm and 100% indications that we're going to move in one direction or not. So clean breaks of things like trend lines, and not using things like Elliott waves because it's too subjective. You know, we want to be objective instead, right? So they get caught in analysis paralysis. So we want to avoid that. Right? Why else? They overtrade. People get stuck into too many trades. So they're always trying to be in a trade. They're buying and selling all the time. And, you know, basically they're not getting out of positions when they should be, right? They're over leveraging. So basically they're using too higher leverage, especially when you first get started. You know, people are jumping into trades and they're 25xing, they're 50xing, and they're just getting liquidated straight away. They're trying to force trades. I see this happening a lot. Like, people want the market to move in a direction, so they just long it or they just short it because they feel like it should go in that direction, instead of reading what's actually in front of us and trusting our indicators and trusting our system, which gives us an edge on the market. They chase a trade when they miss it, and they use poor risk management. So chasing the market, you know, maybe, you know, we're looking at a trade, we're waiting for it to break out, and then it finally breaks out in our level and we missed it and it goes too quickly. We don't get a chance to enter and it pops off, and then we end up buying in at the wrong position instead, and then the market starts to reverse, and then we take a small loss, and then it bounces back off the breakout point again, and then it takes off again. Right? So this happens all the time. And then poor risk management, because people don't really understand where to place their stop loss, and they're following, you know, standard textbook examples and placing their stop loss right below the last level of support, which, you know, is where the stops get hunted, which you don't want to be doing when you're leverage trading, and it just ends up costing you way too much money. All right. So here's a perfect example of our friend Tony Vase, who put up this post, as promised, first and perhaps only Bitcoin trade of the year. One Bitcoin short, 5x leverage for March expiry futures. Full account liquidation is at 7,650. If you had to put this in, like he put this on BitMEX, if you had to put this in on Bitfinex, it would have got liquidated the other day. But I just see no point of him to, you know, do full account and 5x leverage his whole entire account, because things like this happen, right? So even though, you know, he hasn't been liquidated just yet, there is a high chance that, you know, he probably freaked out after we broke through this level here, right, of the previous last high. Most traders would freak out and they would exit somewhere around in the middle of this pump. And of course, this went all the way up to 6,800 and then came back down to about 6,400. Now, at 5x your entire account, you're losing a lot of money at that point, right? So we definitely don't want to be getting ourselves into a position like that. You know, we want to be looking for clean breaks to the trend line. You know, and this was actually ended up being quite an obvious long, which I'll show you guys just quickly. We called it in our Discord channel. Here was the call. So I had inverse head and shoulders right here on the 5 minute. This broke down a little bit more. And then a couple of seconds later, it really took off. As you can see, it broke through this level, so this was the level of resistance, right? So we came back down, we made sort of this V shape here, and that's put in our level of support and resistance, which as we can see, we broke down here, came back up, and that formed our left shoulder, right? You can see the volume, left shoulder, came back down, formed the head of our head and shoulders, then came back down about the same level, formed our right shoulder, then took off. This happens a lot of the time. It gets sort of caught up or has a little fake out and then comes back down and then goes again and then finally breaks through. And we had that final breakthrough just here and then it took off and, you guys know the story from the other day, right? So I'm going to take you through and show you guys exactly everything that I look for when trading on margin and basically how to spot things like this call that we had today, which played out really, really nicely for some good profit, right? Okay. So what we want to be looking for and sticking to is simplicity, right? Simplicity is the key. We want to be using low leverage so we don't freak out. We don't want to be doing our entire account, 5x, 10x, whatever. Because when we do that, we're betting way too much money and that's going to put us on an emotional tilt, right? Margin trading is way more difficult and much, much harder to be profitable in than just trading altcoins on Binance, right? It's much more difficult, guys. So you have to understand that, especially on BitMEX, the wicks are much longer and much more aggressive, so you're more likely to get stopped out if you're wrong. Or a lot of time you can be right and people will hunt your stop loss and the market will move in one direction, stop you out, and then it will go and confirm the trade that you were looking for anyway, right? So we want to look for hard confirmation signals that are objective and not subjective. So that's why we don't use things like Elliott waves as much when we're trading like this, right? So we want to also be focusing on learning to trade one direction first. So I highly suggest that you guys start out and you say, okay, I'm going to learn first. I'm going to focus on just shorting. And maybe somebody else might be like, I'm just going to just focus on just longing the market, right? Because if you're trying to learn how to trade both ways from the start, you're just going to constantly wreck yourself. So just focus first on trying to long the market, or just focus. And so what you're doing when you're trying to long the market is you're trying to find the bottoms, right? So we want to be longing the bottom of the market. When we're basically shorting the market, we want to be looking for the tops in the market, right? So if you decide I want to focus on shorting and learn that first, then you just focus on trying to find the tops. When, for example, Bitcoin came to the 0.618 multiple times over and over and over. So we want to be looking and maybe shorting from that position. I'll show you guys in a minute. But before that, what technical analysis should I be using? KISS, keep it simple, stupid is what we want to stick to when trading on margin. Nobody that works in big finance firms is using any of these crazy algorithms and indicators and things like that to predict their trades. They're using solid things like support and resistance, trend lines, basic horizontal support and resistance, right? So trend lines, horizontal support and resistance, RSI and divergence, Fibonacci. And then the next thing is you want to have your entry, stop loss, target 1 and target 2, all preset, right? So we want to make sure that we are not overcomplicating, right? The problem is people overcomplicate it and they get themselves into a mess using 35,000 different indicators, all saying different things, right? Like anything in life, being a successful trader is all about mastering the basics and practicing them over and over and over again. So let's have a look and let's look at our 4 most basic but most key important indicators that we can use to make profit and pull profit out of this market, right? So we want to be looking at trend lines, we want to be looking at basic horizontal support and resistance and order blocks, and we want to be looking at RSI and divergence and then Fibonacci's. So let's get up. This was Wabi. Here's a perfect example of an altcoin that just bounced perfectly off the 0.618. So it's always, if you guys have done our altcoin mastery course, 0.618 and the 0.5, these two levels here, sort of the buy zone for an altcoin that's pumping. So if this is going to get RSI bullish run here on the 4 hour, which is just, if we open this up, which has just had a cross down there. So this could well and truly bounce here now and move up. We'll have to see how strong the market is right now, but this was a pretty good little pump. But let's get over to BitMEX and we'll have a look at what's going on there. So first of all, we're going to look at trend lines, right? So what I'm going to do is just open up a new page so I can clear it. Let's open up my 1 second. There we go. All right, so we'll just nuke this. We'll go straight to price action first, and let's go and have a quick look at the daily, right? So first of all, what we want to be looking at is trend lines, right? So the overall trend line that's been most dominant throughout, this entire year has been this trend line here, right? So let's just play that guy. And it's sort of been running perfectly through here. And then of course, we also had this trend line, which came from the bottom of this order block just here. And it's been right across for the entire year, right? We've come down and we've been bouncing from these levels here. Right, so just from these trend lines, we can take a lot of information, which is going to be helpful for us to make trades. So first of all, when we look at a chart, we want to start on the daily. Then we look for the major trend lines in the market, right, that we need to be aware of. So obviously, this level here, which is our weekly order block, right? So if we go out to our weekly, we can see right here, this is something that most people don't notice. Right, obviously we had this huge bull run that crypto came from. At the start of last year it was around $1,000, just slightly slipped under to about 870, and then it finally started making that bull run about March. Right, we took off and had this really strong bull run throughout the year, and had these little FUD sections from the China ban, etc., etc. And then we really took off. We came back at this point here. I think this might have been the China FUD actually. When was that? 6th of November, or maybe it was this one in September. I can't remember. But basically we came back here and we dipped down. This was the final dip that we had before we exploded all the way up to 20K, right? And had that huge, huge rally. So this is what we call our weekly order block, because the price has gone up, it's hit this level and it's come back down, right? And so we've got this red candle here. If we scrape that along there, you'll notice how significant this area has been for the entire year. We had our first two bounces out of this order block, and now price is sort of stuck inside. So this is what we now would call the range that we're inside of. And if we want to trade on margin here, we can actually use this range here to scalp the range, right? But I'll show you guys how to do this, obviously not on the weekly time frame, but we go down and we do this exact same thing on smaller and smaller time frames down to the hourly and the 15-minute. We trade inside those blocks there, right? So that's how you find an institutional order block, right? We just call them order blocks, but this is the weekly order block. And as you can see, how important that weekly order block has been for the entire year. Just that range there in between 7,400 and the bottom of it being 5,800, which obviously has been our yearly low, bounced here and then also bounced back here, right? We never got a weekly close below that point. And until we do get a weekly close below that point, we still have a strong chance of breaking to the upside at the end of this consolidation channel, right? So that's order blocks, and this is trend lines, right? So obviously trend lines, super important. Now let's go in to the daily and see where we're at right now. Okay, so obviously we've been consolidating this triangle for a long time. Now we're looking at our trend lines in here, right? Where are some other trend lines that we've had some pretty important levels? As you can see, if we're looking for shorts on the way down, we're looking for the tops of this triangle. So we take these points here. The first one would have been drawn like this, right? Which obviously we broke through. We sort of had a fake out. We sort of had a fake out here and then it failed and broke down, right? So let's get rid of this line here first. So this is what we were originally looking at. And this was a position that we really should have shorted, especially after we broke through this trend line here, right? So we take our most important trend line here. So we touch the bottoms of this wick here to this wick here. And this is a clear break at this point, right? We break under, come back up, tag it, and then we start to break down here. So this is a clear short from this position here after we've just been rejected off this trend line here, right? So this is a short position that we could look to open. So how would I open this short position? We would go to this point here, right? And we would open our short. And then we would look to take profit maybe down at these yearly lows again. So when we're looking at short entries, it's exactly the same as when we're looking for a long entry, except the only difference is we're selling instead of buying. So what we want to be doing, just come over here, right? I actually just entered into a short position earlier today. So this is just a little scalp account that I've got running for the purpose of teaching you guys throughout this course. So what I've done is I've entered one Bitcoin, right? And I saw this get rejected. We had the breakout trade, which I posted in the Facebook group. If we go to perpetual swaps over here, we had the breakout trade, which broke out from this point here and it broke up. So we took a long position here. We took our profit here and then it started to collapse and break back down. Right, as you can see, I've got these lines that are in here and these are my horizontal support and resistance lines. Right. Obviously, this is on the 15-minute, but these lines are drawn in from looking at the daily or the 4-hour or the hourly. And what I do is I just find really crucial levels of support and resistance that's bounced multiple times. So we had a nice breakout here, right, on the 15 minutes. So this was the long entry right here. Right. So this was a long entry here. And all I did when that went through is I just went like this. And I went market and I clicked buy market and I put in 3,000 contracts, which is about $3,000, not too much because this is just a scalp account. 3,000 contracts into here. And after this closed above the resistance line again, because what we were looking at, and I posted this in Facebook group, we had this triple bottom here. So 1, 2, 3. The best entry was actually in this area here after we started moving up, came back down, and then bounced again from here. So we made this nice little pattern. This is actually the perfect area, especially once we broke over this line of support here, then came back. This is another long entry, this position here, because we're holding above support and then started to move up. Double bottomed here. If we look on a really deeper time frame on the 1 minute, this would show a nice double bottom and then move up from this level of support taken from this area here. Right, and then we had that nice little breakout, obviously got rejected because what we're looking at, this rejection here, is actually the extension of this trend line. Right, so our yearly trend line, which has been running from this point through here, across these points, right? Basically what we were looking for is this came back here and we saw, if we get onto the hourly, that this came up and bounced right off our trend line, which has been following for the entire year, right? So we came up here, tagged it right here, and then fell down. And obviously that is a really good indication of a short position because this yearly resistance has obviously been providing a lot of resistance throughout the entire year. So this is a really good position to get a nice big hefty short in because this, we can put our stop loss just 1 to 2%, probably not even. You could just put that maybe 1.5%, because if this breaks and comes over and gets a solid close, ignore this wick because obviously that was from the tether pump and came all the way back. Now we've come up, we've tried to challenge this resistance level again, like we failed at this point here. You can see the wick perfectly tagged it, wick perfectly tagged it again. That to me is saying that, hey, it's not going to get through on this try. It's time to enter into a short. So what I did is I took profits on the breakout long that we had from this point here, right? This came up, tagged it, didn't look very good. And we also had this candlestick pattern here, which if you guys have done the altcoin mastery course, this is called a shooting star. So morning star is the opposite when it points out the bottom. We had a shooting star, the wick was pointing out the top, and then we had this reversal starting to come back down, right? So that was giving me perfect opportunity to enter into a short. So I opened up that short, 1 Bitcoin short. What have I got it on? 5x margin, right? So not too crazy, right? If this starts to play out, I might look at actually adding another 3,000 contracts, so another 6,000 contracts to this short. As you can see, I'm up 41 points right now in this trade. We go to our December futures. So perpetual swaps, guys, is basically people trading back and forth between each other. Just forget completely about these two, the down and up contracts, because they're basically options. If you want to be trading on futures, so Bitcoin futures, this is December futures, and this is March futures. And obviously this is our perpetual swaps here, right? So I just entered this in futures. And then now what I've done is I'm in profit at the moment. So what I've done is I've put my stop loss in place. So this is a free trade for me now. So I've got full Bitcoin, which is even more than what I've got in this account right now. If this does rebound and come back up, it might take out my stop loss, but at least I'm not going to lose any money. And it comes back up, maybe double tops at this point here and gets rejected again by this trend line somewhere around this level here. I can look to enter again. Or if it breaks over the top, what I'll do is I'll take a long position on perpetual swaps, right? So basically what I'm doing is I'm trading one direction on swap. I'm trading in the other direction on futures. And that generally goes back and forward between longing and shorting, depending on the funding rate and how long I'm going to be staying in the trade. Because this is a scalp account, the trades aren't going to hold for that long. What I'm basically looking for here right now is for this to drop back down to here. And if it either breaks on this trend line or if it holds on this trend line, if it bounces from here, I might take profit depending on what the market's giving me. But that's sort of my take profit 1 line. And then my take profit 2 would be an extension of this level of support and resistance, right? Which we can drag out to about here, right? So that's obviously was an important level where we broke out from the head and shoulders. So if this trade does come down to here, that's 1%, that's 3%. So, that'll put me on this trade probably making about 300 points, right? 350 points if it comes down to here, right? Which is not a bad little trade. And, you just want to be looking to make a couple of these trades a day. If you make a 250 or 300 trade per day, at the end of the week, you're making anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500. And that's just off, having half a Bitcoin in this account. So you don't need a lot of money to get good returns out of this market. I can have, this is probably about $5,000 Australian, and I can make at least up to $1,000 to $2,000 per week. Just pulling that Bitcoin out of BitMEX by trading like this. So, it can be quite simple, but all you need to do is put time into it and learn where to put these lines. So let's take a quick look, because I think we've covered off trend lines just quickly. Other trades that you can look for using trend lines are ones like this. So obviously we're on the 15-minute here. This to me was quite a clear triangle pattern that we're in. We sort of had broken down a few times. And this was a little bit wicky, and this was a strong area of support, which we saw we bounced here, we bounced here, we bounced here, broke through, but came quickly back above, bounced here again, broke down through. It looked like it was about to invalidate this line, but then we broke above it. And then this pattern of the trend line started to get put in. Then we bounced here again, bounced here, bounced here again. So it looked pretty solid, right? Then we had the trend line, which was pretty obvious through here. Once we finally broke through this trend line and we got a 15-minute confirmation on the other side, see how it sort of limped across, went sideways for a little bit, but then we got the confirmation in here that this trend line was solid. It had been broken. It wasn't 100% sure. Then we got it with confirmation finally here. It had been tested once, tested twice, and then it started to take off. This was the breakout, and then it started to take off. So we got a nice little trade off of that one, which was about a 1% move. I mean, if you sold out at the top of the wick, you got about 1.5, right? Which can be anywhere from $100 trade. You know, if you're trading, 3,000 to 6,000 contracts, half a Bitcoin to a full Bitcoin, you're going to profit off that anywhere from $150 to about $300, right? So we moved along here, and then we had obviously this key level of support was established, came back up, got declined, and we had inverse head and shoulders, right? So little patterns like our inverse head and shoulders, our cups and handles, those things play out quite consistently. Let's go have a look at Ripple right now, because we had a nice trade earlier on Ripple, which you can see I drew in. We had this cup and extended handle. Actually, it took a while to play out, but this was obviously there. We had this nice scooping pattern, sideways, came down a little bit, finally broke up, and it broke through our level of resistance here, which obviously was established by this point here and this point here. We came down, we broke, we got the 15-minute close on top of the cup and handle, right? And then we broke out, and this was actually a fair bit more profitable, this trade, and it was about 5.5%. Right, so I might do 2,000 contracts, which is about 0.1. So it's about $1,000 to $3,000, right? And that's going to break up through there, and you get a nice little return on that, right? So I'm just showing you guys, you don't need a lot of money to trade on MEX and make a good little income out of it. To make $1,000 a week at your job, is okay money for some people. Most people probably need about 100K to 150K a year to live off comfortably, though. So, you need to be making about, $1,000 to $3,000 per week. Obviously, to get to that level, you need a lot of experience, and you're going to have to take a fair amount of losses to get there, right? Because sometimes you can see these playing out and you don't quite catch them, right? So one thing that I like to do is just go, for example, I go to XRP, right? And we see this cup and handle playing out, right? And as you can see, I've got the line in here as well of our level, right? And I'll click on this line. And what I'll do is I'll go add alert to trend line, right? And so what will happen is when the trend line gets triggered, and I'll go XRP, breakout. Right, when the line gets triggered, it sends me a text message to my phone, and I get an alert, and then I can come back to the computer if I'm not on it, or maybe I'm looking at something else, I'm doing some other work or something like that, and I can enter the trade and I still catch the breakout. So that's a nice little trick, right? So it's just a little bit on trend lines, look for patterns and things like that. As you can see here, here's another trend line by XRP. This was a long-term trend line, which came down. It was touched multiple times, sort of faked out here a little bit, and then was struggling to get out. Didn't really get across properly with volume, and then was quite weak, but came back down finally, confirmed support on this trend line here, and then we took off. Right, so this wasn't really a clean breakout trade, but this was a possible entry down here, but it wasn't really the greatest one. But just a perfect example of showing you guys support and resistance. It finally breaks across cleanly, comes back down, confirms the support, and then takes off. Right, let's go and have a look at some other trades which were quite profitable recently. So ETH/USD had a really nice break of the trend line. Let's go and have a look back here. I've actually deleted this trend line, so we need to draw it back in. As you can see here, there were so many shorts very clearly given to us by Ethereum, right? So what we're looking for is when we see these drops, so there was obviously one here as well. Whoops. When we're just basically drawing this support trend line, and when we see this break down, that's the indicator to short, right? We can also look at our RSI indicators and our bearish and bullish divergence. So for example, here we had a clear bear div, right? So this has been a pretty long extended period that we've been going sideways for on Ethereum. It had actually been 21 days, 23 days, so almost a month that we've been in this range here around the $300 mark, and it was very indecisive. And we put in a number of touch points on this trend line, right? So then once we finally came down and it was quite weak, just bouncing around here, right? It was pretty clear that this is a good opportunity for us to short as soon as this trend line broke, and it broke with a lot of volume as well, right? And it broke down quite aggressively. So as soon as this broke down, it gave us the opportunity to short it, right? And so what we're looking at here is we had this bear div. So on our little indicator, it shows up with the bearish divergence. You can do these yourself though. So the price made a higher high and the indicator made a flat top, right? So this means that we're most likely going to continue down after this bearish divergence, right? And then what we would do is draw this in. So we've got a little triangle here. This triangle then breaks to the downside, obviously, and then we put in our short, right? So what we do is we put a short in the market, and then we just put our stop on the other side of this trend line, right? And then obviously we try and ride this wave down, and you probably start to look, the first place you'd start to take profit was probably around here. Nice 10% move, but then we finally hit the first upward swing at about 20%. So there was a really, really strong short in there, right? And then I'm going to have to go to Finex now to see the overall market trend. When we finally had a really nice long position was when this broke down. So we had, obviously we had this V action here, right? So this was a trade that I put in. We had our little triangle. It ended up faking out, actually. We had down to the downside. So it was one that basically didn't work out in our favor, which is why it looked like this was going to break out to the upside. And what we would have done is put in a long position from this point here. All right, so we would have entered a long position here. Looking to at least reach these tops or up here, so up to 25%. And what we do is we put our stop loss underneath the trend line, right? So if it gets invalidated, we only lose 3%. But if the trade plays out, then we're going to make up to probably this level here, and that's about 17% on that trade, right? So this was a really good trade as well that we made a long on. So obviously we had the touch points on this trend line here and here. And then we obviously saw this really strong V action out of the market after that capitulation that was crazy, and everything really went down quite heavily. We had that bullish divergence. So as we can see here, the indicator made a lower low. Price made a lower low and the indicator made a higher high, right? Our little divergence indicator over the top of the RSI is signaling to us that it's bullish, right? So we had that bullish divergence, and then we have this break in the trend line. So when we had this break in the trend line, we had a nice play here, and that worked out quite well, right? The other one that we're looking at as well on the lower time frames was through here. So we're trading this if we're going on the hourly. Right, let's go down a bit deeper into the 15-minute. So this was a really nice trade on ETH that we got. So what we're looking for is price keeps on coming in and it keeps attacking this trend line, which is obviously a resistance level in the market. And it's coming up here and it can't break through on this pump, can't break through on this pump, gets denied again. Then we finally came down, we made this bottom here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so it's a bit easier to see. And then obviously we had all of our bullish divergence indicators, which are here, this cluster of bull divs, right, out of this bottom here. And then we started to move up pretty aggressively. We get this clean break. So we can see here, we sort of made this little flag pattern, which had this support level here. So if this support level here broke, we will be looking to get out of our long position, right? So it looked like this was going to go and take an aggressive approach. After we just had this bull div, it looked like it was probably going to break through, right? So it's giving us the indication that we have the bullish divergence on the RSI. Now there's a possibility of a trend change, and we're looking to move up. And then we broke through here with nice volume. See how the volume was very strong here on this pump, right? So we had very nice, the volume was this one here, and then the next one had the most volume. So we had good volume on the breakthrough, and this is a clear long position. And this is obviously telling us that the trend was going to continue, right? So then we have this trend going up through here, right, after it started, right? And so what we're looking for is a long entry from this point here. All right, so we'll take a long entry. And then we can put our stop loss at 1.4% just on the bottom of this trend line. Because if this comes back, goes up like this, and then breaks back down through here, and then breaks through this trend line here, and breaks through this trend line here, obviously, you know, this move is over and it's going to come back down. We need to flip that into a short position and play it to the downside. But luckily for us, it kept on continuing up, and we got a really nice trade out of it, which was from 183. And, you know, there was profit all the way up to 22% up around these levels. Then it was obvious it was breaking down at this point here, and we started moving sideways. So that was the indicator to get out of it when we sort of hit this flag level and broke through this trend line, right? So it's just a way you guys can use trend lines. You can look at, you know, watching these flags like this, right? So we have obviously this channel sort of started through here, and then it broke to the top of the channel. And this is another example of an entry. So we're running on this trend line now. This is another example where you could long from this position here if you weren't already in one, because we broke out of this channel, which had these two touch points. You could then put your stop loss on the other side of this, 1 to 2%, right? And we start to move up, you know. Even just that move there from this position, you know, you've got an easy 10%, right? Just, you know, you can just use these basic indicators of using these trend lines and putting them into your graph on the 15-minute, on the 1 hour, on the 4 hour, on the daily, and you can use them to make really good profit consistently, time after time after time. So if we come back here and we start to bounce on this level, that's going to basically be giving us another indicator that this could start moving back up, right? So we could get a bottom here. Or if we break under this level on XRP, we could look to open a short position like this, open a short position from here, and we can have our stop loss on the other side of it. That's after we get a 15-minute confirmation on the other side. Okay, which would be this guy here. Right, so once, if this breaks down like this and starts to move in that direction, and we get a solid close underneath there, we'll be looking to short that again, because most likely it's going to come back to around this level. Right, probably at least come back down to here to test the top of this breakout point. It could find support along here, because that was a level in there as well. So you can see how we got the touches there, 1, 2, 3, right? So this could come down and be a level of support. Where the touches here, 1 and 2, so this could find a level of support. So that's basically horizontal support and resistance, right? So these are our horizontal support and resistance levels. Let's go and have a look at Bitcoin and look at our horizontal support and resistance levels there. So this is BitMEX perpetual swap. Let's get back over. All right, let's go to the 4 hour. And so what we're going to be looking for in our support and resistance levels are these clear, really clear areas where we've had multiple touch points that are really important to the market, of areas that have broken down because they didn't make it through. So obviously this area here has been really important, right? Probably raise that up just a little bit. Right, we had that fake out here. So, I mean, realistically, you could probably put it there. That's probably going to be a really important line, right? And so let's move across and have a look at how important this line has been. So just from finding this line here, I looked at the touches from there, tag there, and really took it from the top of this 4 hour tag just there. right? This was that weird BitMEX went down and we had the huge pump on Bitfinex, and see how we broke through and then we came back, we tagged this line. So this is obviously a very key important line. Then we move across and then obviously it comes back up here and it tags it here twice, tags it a third time, then we break through, tags it again. Obviously it's getting caught up now, either side of the line every time. We're not getting any closes really in the middle of the line, right? So it's either one side or the other through a lot of these, right? So very clear level of support and resistance. And then obviously here, saved it there and then broke down, came back up. And then that was obviously a level that we broke down from the other day, right? So where's some other levels of support and resistance? Let's go and have a look here. This looks like a pretty clear area too, just from the top here, right? I'm going to change this to blue so it's a bit easier to see. Right, so this is a clear indicator that we look for. And then there's another level that's really key here, which I usually make a box. Right, and this is the clear area for the breakout line that I'm looking for. If we can break above this line, so this is what we call an order block, and it's taken from this level here. I think it's on a daily level. We had a little order block here, and then that's created the really key level of resistance that we can't seem to break through. Right, other clear levels. Let's just put these in. Might go back to the daily. Right, so what I'm looking for is clear areas that price has failed or closed at, right? So this is a really clear area, right? We came down this area here, tagged it there again, got caught up here and then bounced off, right? So it's horizontal support and resistance and trend lines, the two most important indicators to be looking for, right? We touched a little bit on order blocks, right, which we saw in there for our weekly order block, which obviously been super key. We looked a little bit at RSI and divergence. Now we're just going to take a quick look at Fibonacci levels and how important they are, right? So some clear indicators for our shorts this year on our Fibonacci levels, which has actually created our trend line. Let's get rid of our trend lines. When we're in a bear market, which we have been, we want to be looking for the tops, right? When we're in a bull market, we want to be looking for the bottoms, right? So we want to be longing from the bottom. So we're going to be longing from this point here up to here, right? And then longing from this point here up to here, right? So when we were doing that, what we wanted to be doing is, tracking these levels, and we would look for it to come back and bounce off the Fibonacci level of the 0618, right? Bang, bounced off there, right? Let's have a look from this one. So basically we went from here up to here, right? We bounced off the 50% level there, which was pretty nice, right? And then we bounced off here to here, and we bounced off the 0618 there, right? And then this was when the trend changed. We bounced off the 0618, came back up here, and we made this lower high, right? So we've been making higher highs this entire time. Now we've made the lower high, right? Which made a clear bearish divergence, which was pretty big. Obviously, you've been giving us a lot of bear divs, which actually followed small sell-offs afterwards. But this was the last clear bear div that we really got on the daily for a long time. So we had the bearish divergence and the pivot here as well, which was telling us that this is a clear and very clean top, right? So pivot to bear div on that, which is quite large, right? And then basically we're coming down. So we have our bear div, which is from this point here. So we made a higher high, right, from here to here. That's actually not a bear div. Where does this one come from? So anyway, we've got our it's coming out of the RSI being very oversold, right? And we've made this lower high here, and now we're selling off, right? Our indicators told us that we've got a bearish divergence coming off this point here. So the bear div was actually, got my alignments wrong, right? So the bear div was actually from this point here down to this point here, right? So then we had our bear div, which was quite strong, and then we made the lower high here. Right, so we go from bear div. All these bear divs were invalidated because we kept on making higher highs. Now we have a bear div with a lower high, and now it starts to get pretty dangerous. Then the trend change is confirmed that we're flipped because now we're below the 0.618, and now we're trending down, right? Came back up to this level, which was obviously a key horizontal support and resistance level, right? Probably a little bit higher. Right, we came up to this level here and tried to break through, couldn't get above this line here, and we obviously broke down again, right? So what this was doing is, we broke through the 0.618. Now what we're looking at is when we're trading in the other direction and we're coming back down and we're bouncing off the 0.618 every time. So see, we failed at the Garn level of our 50 here at this point. Right, and then on the next one, we failed again. So we just had a tiny little fake out for a couple of days, and I really thought we were going to get above, and then it failed and broke down. Right. And then this one, perfect touch of the 0.618. And then unfortunately we had it again. Here, we had another tag of the 0.618. So all of these 0.618 tags and then failures, see how we tag the 0.618 and then we're breaking down underneath the 50. That is a clear indication that we should be shorting the market, right? So open up a short position and you'll put your stop loss on the other side. So it's 4 to 5% stop loss, and we have potential of a 14% profit there. Right. So once again, in this level here, what's happening right now, we are looking for this to break out. And as you can see, our pump that we had just yesterday broke out and we tagged the 0.618 perfectly at this level. And then look what happened. We failed and we're starting to break down again, right? We've come back up here twice and tried to break through the 0.618 and couldn't get through and failed again, right? So this is why we're getting another rejection from the 0.618, and then we've also got our trend line coming through here that we're rejecting from right now. And if we want to take a look at our short, which is starting to play out, it hasn't really moved since we've been open, but this is a nice little short position we're in right now. Stop loss at break even, and this is either going to break down from here or it's going to get a little bit of a pump, and we're going to break through this line finally. But most likely it's not going to get out. What I could do is I could drop my stop loss down to this level here, which is at 6,435. In case this level breaks with a bit of volume, at least I'll get some profit. But the profit's so low anyway, it's only $40 right now. It's nothing to get too excited about. What I'm really looking for is this drop down to here and pick up a full 100-point move. All right, so let's keep moving. So that's how we basically, a little bit on using trend lines, a little bit on basic horizontal support and resistance, RSI and divergence and Fibonacci. I go through every single type of divergence and how to look for it and how to use it. And obviously I share with you guys my indicator as well that we've been using, which is basically explains how to, it actually gives you the divergences, so you don't need to work them out for yourself, but it's good to learn first and spot them yourself and do it manually, and then you can move into using the indicator, right? And then obviously in the 6-week program that we're going to go through, I'm going to take you guys through advanced topics. We're going to do a whole hour masterclass on shorting. We're going to cover off futures in depth. I'm going to explain how to hedge properly and going through a full hedging strategy on your swing trading. We're going to go through scalping and I explain how to scalp the ranges specifically. I showed you a tiny little bit just before on scalping, but we haven't really gone into it as deep as possible because obviously I only have an hour with you guys, whereas the other masterclass, as you can see over here, when we go through every single one, we go through the trends and I show you, every point to buy the dip and short the top, right? And we go through, how to use leverage effectively, how to use your stop losses and how to place them in the right spot so you're not getting stopped out all the time. We go through a whole module on horizontal support and resistance, and how to pick all these levels. We go through Fibonacci, trend lines in much more depth, how to hedge effectively and hedge properly, how to use the futures to your advantage. And this is a full, I think it's 80 something, 85, 86, 80 full 89 slideshow presentation that we go through over the 6 weeks. So you guys have full understanding by the end of it, every single step of the way. One thing, guys, that you really need to understand when margin trading is you have to understand losses and taking losses. There's only one way to become a profitable trader, and that's by taking losses. You need to be able to emotionally unattach yourself to your trading capital. One of the most important things is you need to make sure you're not relying off the money that you're making out of the market to live off, because you're just too emotionally attached to the outcome. When you have to fully expect that everything that's in your account, especially when you're trading on leverage, you could possibly lose it, especially if you're doing really silly things like trading on cross leverage. In the 6-week course, of course, guys, I go through, how to use leverage effectively, things to stay away from, how to trade on our altcoin markets and our altcoin futures and use those. I go through how to hedge effectively using our Bitcoin futures. And effectively what you're really doing is just trading against yourself. But there's ways to do it, and you're going to lose a lot of money if you're not doing it properly. And there's ways to do it, which is actually managing your risk and strengthening your position instead of, you just entering at random spots because you're trying to trade both ways all the time. And, you're getting liquidated and things like that. Right? I go through how everything on this entire page works and what to look for. We're going to go through how to open position, how all of this works, right? Reading the order books and everything like that, which, you don't really want to be looking at too much when we're getting first started. All right. So one thing, guys, if you've sort of been sitting through this webinar and you're like, okay, I got a little bit of the basics, but I still need more help. It's all right. We've got you covered. We actually have a live chat group, which is open all the time in our Discord, which I showed you before, where myself and Daz Angelo, who's the Wolf of Amsterdam, we're posting in here all the time, all of our trades, so you guys can not only see what we're doing, what we're seeing. So here's the call that I made on XRP earlier today at 11:30. Currently cup and handle. For this trade, we need XRP to break and close above 6,900. So we had this trade, which we saw obviously broke out and actually profited us about 6%, which was a nice little trade. Made a few $100s off that one, right? And obviously, in this platform, basically we're giving our signals. Every single trade that we're putting in here for you guys to see live. And you can use that, obviously, understanding the training that we're going through, and you can use that as well so you can learn more. So this is our profit and loss report from last month in September, and we made over 1,000% in cumulative profit. It was actually about 1,400, but we didn't want to toot our own horn too much and come off like tosses that we're doing way too much. So you can see there's a few losses in here, a few break evens, some targets that never got hit, and obviously a lot of profit in there as well, both long and short plays. So this is going to help you guys learn, by watching the calls that we make. You can see trades going either way, and trades playing out and why trades don't work, and we explain what we missed and why it didn't work and if it got invalidated. And how to play the trade as it goes out. So if you guys want to join, you can sign up here. It's pretty cheap. I think 0.01 BTC. I can't even work out off the top of my head how much that is. 3 months is like $200. So yeah, it's like $100 a month, and from 1,000% profit on your trades, and also the education that we give in there as well. That is an absolute steal. So basically, you guys can just take a quick screenshot of this, and this is a QR code of the wallet to send the money to, the Bitcoin to, or you can send it to the address down here below. I will also post this up in our Facebook group, and you can join. All you need to do is download Discord, and we will send you an invite, and you can join and be a part of our little community on here. You can also just join and hang out in the general chat and just chat to us, post up your charts, and we'll analyze them for you and have a chat. We also post some good trades in here as well. We posted our Wabi trade in here the other day. and one of our members, Nevada, I think possibly could be on the call right now, wink, wink, got a nice little 17% off that. This was a nice little cup and handle on Tron the other day that played out pretty nicely for a good 7% gain, which is 70% on margin trading on 10x. Right, so basically, if you guys want to join, shoot me a message on Facebook or Dario a message on Facebook, and yeah, shoot across your Bitcoin and we'll add you into the premium signals group. If you think that's too expensive, just jump on Discord. We'll add you into the group as well, and you can just hang out in general chat with everybody else. Right, so getting into juicy stuff, the margin trading masterclass, the 6 weeks, 9 topics we're going to be going through, and we're going to fully immerse yourself and fast track your way to margin trading success, right? This is all the stuff that I wish I had have just learned when I first started trading on margin, and someone just sat me down and said, look, Kyle, focus on these main skills and then move on to the advanced topics. And that will be the best way to start making money consistently and also reducing your risk and reducing your losses. Because at the end of the day, what we want to be doing is putting ourselves in positions by entering at support and not entering at resistance, but by entering at support and having our stop loss on the other side of support. If that support line breaks down, then we're going to be saving ourselves a lot of money by stopping out there instead of trying to buy breakouts when they're at the top, and then your support, your stop loss has to be all the way back down at the other side of support anyway. Otherwise, you're going to get stopped out, and then the trade's going to turn around in the other direction. You can just get extremely angry and frustrated. You're going to be losing money, especially when you think the market's going to go in a direction, you get stopped out. It is the worst part of trading, that's for sure. So learning how to enter the market properly, how to set your stop loss properly, can save you a lot of sanity and time and money by getting your skills up before you dive in head first, trading with too much leverage, right? We'll be looking at, horizontal support and resistance, all of our different levels, how to enter off, all of the different most important indicators, from double bottoms, triple bottoms, breaks of little patterns like flags and pennants and channels, wedges, and all those little indicators that we can be using from our little patterns, and giving you guys really nice trades consistently, right? And this is the whole purpose of the programs, is give you guys with a clear-cut strategy to know exactly when to look for to make consistent trades in the market over and over and over. And what we cover in the entire course over the 6 weeks, so we're going to be doing 1 webinar per week minimum, and then over three of the weeks we'll actually be doing 2 webinars. So we'll have 3 weeks of 1 webinar, and we'll have 2 weeks. We'll have 3 weeks of 2 webinars. Right, so module 1, we're going to be getting started on BitMEX. And what we'll be looking at is going over this little website, our little exchange, and we'll be going through every single thing that has to do with BitMEX. How a leverage position works, what to do over here, what all these little things over here work. 24-hour turnover, which is our volume. Looking at when we're on swap, we can see our funding rate and things like that. What does funding mean? What does margin mean? How much money am I actually making? How much money am I actually risking? Because there's so many numbers, so many different indicators and things on this page, it can be quite confusing. So we're going to spend, our first session going through that and getting everyone set up properly so that our, your systems are running effectively. You can ask me any questions you want to afterwards. I'll be going through what your liquidation price means and how to adjust that, and how to make sure it's in a safe position. Make sure your stop loss is in front of your liquidation price so you're not getting liquidated and things like that. Little tricks that can save you a lot of money just by understanding it from the start. Right, then we're going to be going through longing versus shorting, the key difference between the two, trading a direction and picking a bias and sticking to that and focusing on either being a bull or being a bear, and not trying to trade back and forth against yourself all the time and just losing money on each side by panicking and FOMOing and fear selling, right? Actually picking a direction and you're going, okay, I'm going to be a bull and I'm going to be looking to long the lows. I'm going to be looking to long the lows, and then I'm going to be hedging when we have blow-off tops. And then I'm going to be getting stopped out. So that's a specific strategy that you're going to be following, right? That you need to know and you need to follow if you're going to be a bull in the market. So you focus on that strategy, you buy the bottoms, and then you hedge when we're at the tops, right? and you follow that strategy and trade those trends, right? Looking for little things that break in trends. Right? If we're shorting, we're going to be going the other way, and there's going to be a specific strategy that we'll go through if you want to be playing the game as a bear, and we'll be going through the strategy you need to be following for that and trading that direction and trading that bias to make consistent profit over and over, right? So module 3, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at how to use leverage and how to place your stop loss. We're going to be going over all the errors that people make in placing their stop losses and why it is the #1 reason why people fail to be profitable in the market. And that is because they drown in a sea of stop losses. So we're going to be looking at how to put your entries at levels instead of placing your stop losses at specific levels. So when other people are getting your stopped out, you're actually entering into trades. We're going to be looking at that, how to take advantage of that so you can become a more profitable trader. Right, module 4, we're going to be going through horizontal support and resistance, and we're going to be going through institutional order blocks. I showed you guys the weekly order block the other day and how crucial and how important that has been to the rest of the year. Right, imagine you knew how to spot that weekly order block from the start of the year. You would have made so much more money just from that one simple understanding of that indicator, right? So that has been a crucial level and been the bottom of our market for the entire year. So just knowing that one trick probably could have saved you hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of dollars, right? Module 5, trend lines. We'll be going into that really, really deep because there's so much to learn about trend lines and all the patterns and everything to look for. Double tops, triple tops, double bottoms, triple bottoms, how to play those effectively, and how to play all the different patterns, cup and handles, inverse head and shoulders, things like that. We're going through Fibonacci and how to spot the trend changing direction, which we sort of covered off a little bit before, how to use Fibonacci when we're playing our smaller time frames and how important it can be there. We're also going to be going through futures and how to use futures and hedging specifically in our long or short strategy. Module 6, we're going to be going over scalping, and we're also going to be going over our swing trading strategy, which I didn't really show you much of, but we'll take a quick look at it now. Let's open this load chart. So this is basically the swing trade strategy that I use to spot the trend in the market and go into longer term swing trades, right? So we can use this for very, very profitable trades over, a much longer term. So Bitcoin is not giving us really much love right now. But, we can use this for definitely all of our altcoins. Let's have a look at Ethereum. Right, so just using this simple swing trade strategy, what we look for are these quick breaks like this. So this here, the swing low, right? This here, obviously, it was a break in a swing high, right? So I go through this in depth and explain everything you need to know to fully understand this strategy and how to make it work for you so you can get 100% confirmations that the market is moving in a specific direction. It's really easy. It's super objective. It's not subjective at all, and it's always clean and easy to spot, right? So I'll be taking you guys through that in a whole session. We'll be looking for those clean breaks in the market as we're playing anything out, and even just being in the group while we go through these trades can be really clean and clear trades. You can be making a lot of profit off, right? And this is on every single coin. We can use this for margin trading on our other accounts. Obviously, this is our swing trade. So this is our scalping account that we're playing right now. That'll be our swing trading account, which is another account that you want to be playing. So you should have 2 accounts set up at any one time. One account is your longer term trading account, and another account like we're on right now is our smaller account, which we're using higher leverage on when we make trades, and that is for scalping, right? So we're going to go through that, and I'll fully explain that in detail, and we'll use that to trade our altcoin futures as well with our swing trading on our 3-day confirmations. Then module 7, we're going to go through MACD and how to use that. We're going to fully dive really deep into RSI. And we're going to go through bullish and bearish divergence. And we're going to go through every single level, what to look for, how to spot all the different bullish and bearish divergences on all the different time frames, how important they are in each time frame, how long you should be holding trades for, off those signals. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it all together in the last module. And we're going to teach you guys how to take solid entries and solid exits using this strategy of using the key indicators that we're going to go through over all modules. We're going to go through and we're going to be learning how to take all the profit before we give it all back. So that's going to be basically what we're going to be looking at over the next 6 weeks, guys. So if you want to be a part and you want to join the team, join us for the 6-week margin trading masterclass for only $250 AUD. Right, so I have it here and I showed you guys before. If I wanted to put these off and break them up into different sections, we'd have our $50 for module 1, module 2 would be about $100, module 3 would be worth about $50, module 4 would be worth about $150, module 5 would be worth $100, module 6 would be worth $250, module 7, and I've missed module 8, would be in there as well, but we'd be looking at a total of about $850 for the total package. But I'm going to give it to you guys because I want everybody to learn this and everybody to get into it and be a part of the team and learn how to start making profit off margin trading, scalping and swing trading and playing these moves. And I want to give it away to everybody for low price with a set of steak knives for $250 and only 0.27 BTC, right? So if you want to be a part of the 6-week program, feel free to hit me up. I'm going to post the link for you guys to fill out the registration form, and we will be starting on the 30th of October. So 2 weeks from now. Next week, I'm going to run another webinar, just promoting the course again, which will be on the 23rd. I'll run another webinar in US time zone because we've got a lot of people in the US time zone that won't be able to watch this, be a part of it. And then on the 30th, I'm going to run the first class of our 6 weeks. So it will run from the 30th and then on through there. So this is a Google form here. I'm going to post this up in the Facebook group with the rest of the information in there, and you guys can sign up when you are ready to go. So thank you, everyone. Went a little bit over time, but I was trying to squeeze in as much info as I could. Thanks for being a part of the webinar tonight, and hopefully we'll see you guys either in our Discord channel, at least in the general chat. Just join that and be a part of it because it's a great little community that's starting to build in there. And we give away a lot of free calls and a lot of free information on what's happening in the market. If you want to be a part of the Crypto Collective Signals page, get into that. Just contact myself or Dario on Facebook Messenger and we'll get you into the group. And just fill out the form if you want to become a part of the team for the webinar series over the next 6 weeks. And I'll see you guys all then. Ciao.